Welcome back to Live from Paris here on France 24. I'm Haxi Myers-Belkin. These are the headlines. France records over 9,800 new cases of COVID-19, the highest figure for a 24-hour period since the start of the pandemic. That ahead of a government meeting to discuss new measures to fight the virus. Thousands of desperate migrants are forced to spend a third night in the open on Lesbos after the Greek island's migrant camp was reduced to ash. Greece saying it was time now to move from words of solidarity to acts of solidarity. And wildfires continue to ravage the United States. Firefighters in California now battling the largest blaze in the state's history, as an eighth of the total population of the state of Oregon is ordered to evacuate. Thank you very much for joining us. Also coming up in perspective in just a few minutes' time. With countries across the world experiencing worrying new spikes in COVID-19 infection rates, how close are we to developing an effective vaccine? And would it be the magic bullet so many governments are relying on? I'll be speaking to Beate Kampmann, Director of the Vaccine Centre at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. France has recorded a new all-time record of new daily COVID-19 infections. Almost 10,000 people have tested positive for the virus in the past 24 hours. The number of people treated in hospital has also begun to rise steadily. This coming ahead of a key government meeting after which the French can expect to learn of a series of new measures intended to reverse the trend. Pierre Delrieux has the story.
Testing and isolating. Until a treatment or a vaccine against COVID-19 is found, these are the two ways of fighting the spread of the virus. France has ramped up its numbers of tests in recent weeks, but most people are still unaware of how to isolate efficiently.
Spontanément, là en rentrant chez vous, vous allez vous mettre à l'isolement ou pas?
Non. Spontanément, non. Voilà, je vais attendre de savoir s'il est positif ou pas. S'il est positif, oui, on sera obligé de se mettre à l'isolement.
But according to France's Scientific Council, when it comes to isolation, the sooner, the better.
Je voudrais insister sur un point pour le grand public, c'est que ne croyez pas qu'il faut vous isoler uniquement quand vous avez le résultat de votre test. Il faut vous isoler dans les premiers jours où vous avez des premiers signes cliniques, c'est là où vous êtes le plus contagieux.
To make the process clear to all, the Council has issued new recommendations. The first scenario is if the patient is showing symptoms, such as coughs or fever. They should self-isolate for 7 days before even getting their test results. If the patient does not present any symptoms but tested positive for COVID, they should also self-isolate for 7 days. A third scenario is if the patient has been in contact with someone who's tested positive. Then they should start a 7-day self-isolation period as soon as they can, then get tested, and if their results come back positive, isolate for another 3 days at least. But when confronted to everyday life, these recommendations can be difficult to apply.
Quand on a des enfants, quand on a une vie professionnelle, quand on... Voilà, non, c'est compliqué.
Tout dépend un peu du métier qu'on fait et qu'on exerce.
The Scientific Council recently reduced its recommended quarantine from 14 to 7 days, basing its decision on scientific data and hoping it would help the general public accept it better. This Friday's Defense Council meeting will now have to decide to what extent it will follow the Council's recommendations.
Thousands of migrants on the Greek island of Lesbos have been forced to spend a third night sleeping rough after a series of fires destroyed the infamous Moria migrant camp. Greece is sending 3 ships to help provide emergency accommodation. Authorities also saying they're scrambling to establish temporary shelters on the island. France, Germany and also the Netherlands have offered to take in some of the now destitute migrants. A little earlier we spoke to our correspondent on the island, Natalie Savarakis.
thousands of them really at the edge of the road yet again, families, babies waking up at the crack of dawn with their parents nearby. Again, the question mark is where to go. They're just moving forward, and that's what we saw really, how they had moved and made their way closer to the edge of the town of Mytilene, where the police had sent reinforcement and tried to block them with their buses and their presence, really. Now, you feel that there's tension in the air. You really don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're hungry. They're, not really well fed. They're scared. They're very scared about the spread of the disease, of the coronavirus. They're like, look at us. We can't maintain the social distancing. Half of us aren't even wearing masks. The one we're wearing are half torn. They're petrified. They really don't know what to do. NGOs really are not present. I mean, somewhere here we're trying to distribute some sort of materials to help, but with nearly 13,000 people on the streets, it's making their tasks overwhelming, and of course the task of the administration as well. So remains to be seen what will happen yet again today. Will the administration be able to meet the demands and the needs of these thousands of people and families who are again and still on the streets?
Dozens of wildfires along the west coast of America are showing no signs of abating. The blazes, fanned by strong and dry winds, have destroyed hundreds of homes and are reducing forests to ash across California, Oregon and also Washington. Hundreds of thousands of people have been ordered to evacuate, some 500,000 in the state of Oregon alone. Ellen Gainsford has more.
Scenes of total destruction. Wildfires have wreaked havoc in Oregon. 500,000 people, or around an eighth of the state's total population, have been told to evacuate.
We heard, you got to get out now. And all we had was time to grab some basic stuff real fast and just get out. And when we hit the door, we saw black over the house coming in.
Fires across several western U.S. states have caused apocalyptic black skies during daytime hours. A combination of high winds, heat waves and lightning storms created a tinderbox. Unprecedented conditions have sparked blazes across Washington state, Oregon and California. For the governor of Oregon, they're clearly a product of climate change.
This will not be a one-time event. Unfortunately, it is the bellwether of the future. We are feeling the acute impacts of climate change. We are seeing its devastating impacts in Oregon, on the West Coast, and frankly, throughout the entire world.
In California, there are at least 29 fires burning across the state, and around 20,000 people are under evacuation orders. While in Washington state, the Big Hollow Fire is burning through 22,000 acres of national forest.
It's time